Welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Hello, world, and welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. We're broadcasting live from the Joy Virtual Studio right here in the beautiful Finger Lakes region of New York State. It is so good to be with all of you today. It is Friday. Thank you, Jesus. So glad for the weekend. So thankful for all of you. We're live on Twitter, live on Rumble, Spreely TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, every podcast platform you can ever imagine, reaching millions every single month with this little independent network that could. The SJ Network could not do it without all of you. Please head over to theshannonjoy.com. That's theshannonjoy.com right now to sign up for the daily e-newsletter. That is the best way for me to connect with all of you on a daily basis and make sure that we remain independent. So it is going to be a great show today. In just a minute, we're going to welcome the Notorious MTB, we like to call her. That is Dr. Mary Talley Bowden. I don't know that there's another medical doctor in America that has ruffled as many feathers in the establishment, not only establishment politics, but in the medical field in the red state of Texas, than Dr. Mary Talley Bowden. And she had a phenomenal week this week. First, she was able to face down her accusers, the Texas Medical Mafia, I like to call them, the Texas Medical Board, this week as legislators hammered them for their attack on Mary Talley Bowden as they try to strip away her medical license first and then just harass her for the past 3 years. And so she was able to sit right next to and look right in the face of the guy who has been tormenting her for the past few years. It was absolutely brilliant. We're going to learn about that a little bit more today in the show. Also, blockbuster interview with Tucker Carlson. Wow. I watched the entire interview from start to finish, and Dr. Bowden just knocked it out of the ballpark. Very thankful that Tucker, I've been a critic of his at times on various issues, but very thankful that he gave Dr. Mary Talley Bowden a enormous platform to talk about the mRNA shots and how they have to be pulled from the market, and her persecution in the Republican red state of Texas. Also, COVID in general, the lockdowns, the COVID-19 shots, the bioweapons, the medical malpractice that was committed in hospitals across the country as they essentially committed democide via COVID protocol. In that interview, one of perhaps the most evil thing that has ever happened in this country happened in the dark days of 2020 and 2021. And despite the efforts of MAHA and this administration, and sadly, Bobby Kennedy Jr. and many in the medical freedom community, to distract our attention away from the mRNA shots and what was done to us in 2020 and 21, instead of fighting for justice and truth, right? There is an attempt to move our attention away from those items and onto the MAHA agenda, right? And the MAHA talking points of food, air, water, all the ingestion points, while ignoring the injection, which is the single greatest threat, I think, to our lives and our health in the United States of America today. She had that discussion with Tucker Carlson. So we're going to be bringing her into the Joy Virtual Studio in just a few minutes. And we're also going to open up the live chat at the end of the show. She's going to spend the full hour with us. We're going to talk a little bit about her amazing week. And then we're going to open up the live chat in the second half of the show, so around 1 p.m. Eastern time, so that you can ask her questions, right? The number one comment that I get from people all the time when I feature Dr. Mary Talley Bowden on this show, or she engages in an interview on another platform, is, can you please be my doctor, right? America wants Dr. Mary Talley Bowden to be their doctor. And so you guys are going to have the opportunity to ask her questions. Of course, not medical advice. You want to consult your own physician, but we are going to open that up at the end of the program, which is going to be super, super fun. So we're going to bring her in just a minute. She's actually just waiting for a sofa delivery. I think she's taking care of a sofa delivery right now. And as soon as that's done, we're going to bring her into the Joy Virtual Studio. So Annie is ready to go, ready to bring her in. Annie, how are you doing today? Thank you to Annie Cyrus for producing this show. I hope you are as excited as I am for the weekend. It's been a very busy week here on the Shannon Joy Show. Oh, it was absolutely phenomenal. She knocked it out of the park like she always does. So we are, yes, Guitar Lily is with us on the live chat here in the Shannon Joy Show. OMG. I listened to this interview yesterday. It was riveting. MTB is a friggin' rock star hero. She was great. You know, Tucker Carlson is also a very, very good interviewer. I came away with that. I don't watch his platform often because he is not a trusted source for the Shannon Joy Show. I think that there's a little bit of propaganda there. That's not to say he doesn't do some really good reporting at times, but it's just not a platform or a show that I watch very often. But that interview was absolutely phenomenal. And yes, yeah, very, very good. Mrs. Lovely is with us on the live chat. Bartleby is with us on the live chat. Let's say hello to all of you very quickly. Bartleby is with us today. We have Buskman, Zen Woman, of course, Plant Shield. Haven't seen you on the live chat before. Everyone should see that interview. There were so many important aspects of the interview, and I was just pumping my fist the entire time because the platform is just so big. And we have had such a difficulty because of Maha and the Means twins and Susie Wiles and all of the pharma influences and bankster influences and corporate tech influences that are just surrounding the Trump administration and frankly the Bobby Kennedy Jr. administration over at HHS. There are so many angles out there and so many influences. It's been very difficult to refocus the nation's attention on the single most important issue, and that is the bioweapons, the mRNA shots that are still on the market. 9 million babies injected with the mRNA technology, the COVID shot, because it's been added to the recommended CDC list for childhood vaccination. That's despite Marty Makary being installed over at the FDA. That is despite Bobby Kennedy Jr. being installed as HHS director. And that is despite the good guys, the Trump administration winning in the 224 election. Why are babies still dying? You guys know this Monday on the Shannon Joy Show, we featured a horrifying story of a beautiful family here in Rochester, New York, lost their baby girl just hours after routine childhood vaccination. Terrible, terrible story as reported by Children's Health Defense that we will be following here on the Shannon Joy Show. And so, you know, this is incredibly important in focusing the nation's attention. And Mary Talley Bowden was able to do that in her interview with Tucker Carlson, reframe the issue, refocus the nation, remind people about the dark days, the evil of the 220 lockdown, the COVID hospital protocols, the kill protocols that were deployed in hospitals across the country, and then, of course, Operation Warp Speed and the deployment of the bioweapon, the COVID shots, the mRNA technology that is not only still on the market, but also being worked into other vaccines as well. They're actually promoting these technologies. So that was a huge win for Dr. Bowden. It was a huge win for the actual medical freedom community and a huge win for the nation as we continue to push this administration to move towards the truth. So I want to say thank you. We do have Dr. Mary Bowden warming up in the bullpen right now. So she is here. We're going to bring her in just a couple minutes. But I do want to say hello to all of you on the live chat. Edgar615, welcome to the live chat. Jen Patton, glad to see you here today on the SJ live chat. MCA114, glad to see you as well. Haven't seen you yet. Lots of new faces and new accounts joining us today. John Bassiglione, I think that's the way you pronounce your last name. Great to see you. Everyone should have been out in the streets in March of 2020 when they muzzled and locked down the country. Those of us who did were few, most hid in their houses and or masked up. John, I was with you on the street corners with those signs protesting all of it. And Dr. Mary Talley Bowden was fighting her own battles in the great state of Texas. Let's bring Dr. Bowden into the Joy virtual studio.
Hey everyone, it's Naomi Wolf, and I have a message. President Trump is in the process of what he calls draining the swamp. But many in the MAGA movement and the MAHA movement are asking if he'll expose the entire pandemic. There's enough public evidence for people to be concerned who injected themselves in what has turned out to be a massive experiment. If you were compelled to get the shot for work, travel, maybe you just trusted the system, check out this natural solution formulated by hero doctor Peter McCullough in collaboration with the wellness company. They just leveled up their original detox formula, and it costs $30 less. We are introducing the 3-in-1 Ultimate Spike Detox. It's now conveniently consolidated into a single capsule with 4 times more nattokinase, 500 milligrams of bromelain, and 500 milligrams of turmeric root extract. Nattokinase, an enzyme researched for its anti-clotting effects, may work to break down spike proteins. Combined with bromelain and curcumin, it provides a potent blend for detoxification and cellular support. Crafted with 100% natural ingredients, Ultimate Spike Detox is backed by research. It offers effective support for your cell's natural repair and recovery. Experience the only formula approved and used by Dr. Peter McCullough, a top freedom-fighting doctor who risked it all to bring you the truth. Head over to dailyclouthealth.com and use the code DAILYClout to get 10% off. Plus free shipping. Again, that's dailyclouthealth.com and use the code DAILYClout to get 10% off and get back to that pre-COVID feeling.
Right now, joining us this Friday. How did the furniture delivery go? Is the sofa awesome?
Yeah, I haven't gotten to sit on it yet, but very excited. Super excited.
Love getting a new sofa. It's a great day.
Yes.
It's a great day, a great culmination to a very victorious week, Dr. Bowden, for you. Not only did you get to face down your accusers in the Texas medical mafia, I like to call them, a Texas medical board earlier this week, but also a blockbuster interview on a massive platform with none other than Tucker Carlson. How are you feeling on Friday? Did you reward yourself with the sofa? You deserve the sofa. It's been a busy week.
The timing worked out well. It was a dessert on a wonderful week of but yeah, it's been a good week.
Absolutely. Let's start with, and everyone's saying hello. Hello, Dr. Rockstar, says Guitar Lily. Zen Woman says, hello, Dr. Bowden, welcome. Everyone has been commenting on your interview with Tucker Carlson. We'll talk about that in just a minute, but let's start with the Texas Medical Board and the hearing. There was a legislative hearing in Texas, and you were able to, after 3 long years of torturous, frankly, attacks from the establishment medical board in the state of Florida, no help from most of the Florida Republican Party, very little help from Governor Greg Abbott on this. I mean, you were standing up for people who were resisting the COVID-19 vaccines, resisting the hospital protocols from the very beginning. You were rewarded with this persecution in the state of Texas. So how did it feel to be able to sit across from your accuser and also watch other members of the legislative body critique what they have done to you over the past couple years?
It was amazing. I mean, I didn't know that they were going to bring him up to testify. I had no idea. So, and then when they asked me to come sit next to him, I mean, I couldn't believe it. So, yeah, I don't know if anything will actually come of it, but it really did feel good. It felt good to have the legislators thank me and be kind to me and get some sort of public recognition. So yeah, it was amazing. I think it was even better than the Tucker interview for me. I just having that sitting right next to the person trying to take me down, and
Mm.
then listening to them chastise him was just great.
Tucker Carlson was blown away by the evil nature of the COVID-19 CDC recommended protocol that was deployed in hospitals across the country in the early days of 2020, that kill protocol, and into 2021. And you were in Texas treating patients, trying to help people who were kind of locked in that system, desperately trying to advocate for their loved ones, some of them on ventilators, some in various stages of distress on the COVID floors. And in one critical moment in that interview, he mentioned, this is absolutely evil. Like and the most evil thing that ever happened in the United States of America in our history happened in the years 2020 and 2021. What did it mean to you to have him affirm that? And can you just remind the audience of what got you in the crosshairs of the Texas Medical Board and the medical establishment in those years? Because, when I heard your story retold on Tucker Carlson's show, it really, I mean, I had forgotten how awful that story was and how devastating it was to families. But can you just retell people, kind of how bad it was at the time?
So, it was a summer of 2021, fall of 2021, and that was the third and largest surge of the pandemic. And it was after the rollout of the COVID shots. So it wasn't supposed to be happening. And I was just seeing so much firsthand. I mean, at first I saw that the COVID shots weren't working. And being in Houston, we were home to the first mandates in the country. So Houston Methodist declared on April 1st, 2021, that it was going to become the first hospital in the country to mandate the COVID shots. And this was 5 months before Biden. It was a big deal. And I had a lot of people coming to me very distraught about these mandates. So then I see that they're not working because I am testing people for COVID. And I see that the unvaccinated that the vaccinated are outnumbering the unvaccinated and are just as sick, if not sicker, than the unvaccinated. And so I bring this to the attention of Houston Methodist Hospital, and they gaslight me. So I start I speak out on social media. And at the time, I mean, I only had a few thousand followers. I'd get one like on a post. And I just tweeted out on the same day 25 times the same message: vaccine mandates are wrong. And then I put a patient testimonial under that tweet. And a few days later, I got a text message from a reporter at the Houston Chronicle asking me to confirm, is it true that your privileges have been suspended for spreading misinformation? And I did a double take. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. Check your sources. And then I go to my email and I see that they have suspended me. And I find out from a reporter. And then I go on X and they're tweeting about me, saying that I'm spreading dangerous misinformation, harmful to the community. And then at the same time that this was going on was the fight for Jason Jones, who was the patient in the hospital on a ventilator. The hospital had given up. They were talking hospice, and the wife sued the hospital to try to give him some ivermectin. And I testified. I got involved in the case, and the court ordered them to give me privileges, emergency temporary privileges, so that I could administer the ivermectin. And it just became a very complicated and strong legal battle. I mean, the lawyers had to go back to the judge after the order to fight because they weren't giving me privileges despite the court order. And I was told by my lawyers that we had the green light to give him the ivermectin. So I sent the nurse to the hospital. She was greeted by the cops
Oh
and the
my
hospital
word.
administrator, and he never got the ivermectin.
Yeah.
So he did make it out of the hospital, but he never was able to fully recover. And unfortunately, he did pass away.
Absolutely tragic, and that's when you realize how much money, how much time, how much effort that they spent to deny a dying man a last ditch effort with a drug that has been proven for safety and efficacy for decades, right? As benign as ivermectin, you really understand the nature of the operation, right? Like that's when he said this is evil, right? Like this is so, like, why would they do that? Why would they be so intent on this protocol?
Right. I mean, they would have rather let him die than try a very safe medication. It shows absolutely zero empathy, zero common sense. It is evil. I mean, that's the only conclusion you can make.
Yeah, absolutely evil in every sense of the word. And then the fact that the mRNA technology is still on the market, that there really has been no reckoning, there hasn't been justice for the millions of people who are impacted by every aspect of the COVID lockdowns and the protocols and the shots. Um, it really is quite disturbing. There was one moment you wanted to make a clarification to the audience because Tucker asked you about the efficacy of treating patients with ivermectin versus not treating patients with ivermectin. I know it's stuck in your craw that that you got the numbers backwards. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to clarify that for the audience because I heard it. I didn't think it was that important, but I know it was something that you wanted to address today. So I'll give you an opportunity to do that right now.
Yes. So I was talking about the cases, the similar cases to the one I was involved in. And Ralph Lorigo and Beth Parlato were two attorneys who were trying cases like this all over the country. They actually had 189 cases. And half of those cases they won, and half of those cases they lost. And the ones where they won, all but three lived. So that's a lot. And then the ones they lost, they all died. So
Mm,
it was a huge difference. And unfortunately I said it the wrong way. I said that only three lived, but that's
good.
only three died in the ones where they won the case. So it
Yeah.
was a big deal.
It was a big deal and a big difference, and my ears perked up when you said that because I thought, "Oh, wow, I didn't realize that so many had died," but it was actually the exact opposite. So
Mhm.
in those cases, and here in Rochester, New York, dear friend of the Shannon Joy Show, Aisha Kreutz, was also assisted by Ralph Lorigo and Beth Parlato. We hired them actually because she was given the COVID kill protocol. She was on a ventilator, and the hospital, Highland Hospital, part of the URMC system here in Rochester, New York, refused to administer ivermectin. So we had to hire them. We raised the money to bring them in, and praise Jesus, they were successful. And ivermectin was delivered to Aisha via her feeding tube on day 11, and she lived. She lived. And so, dear friend, one of my very dear friends and a friend of the show. And so I was going to call her and say, girl, did you know you were only one of three people in the country that hired you? And
Yeah.
you're like, no. So only three died. So of the half that their efforts were successful, most of those people lived, which is an unbelievable testament to what you were doing. Very few. This was when no doctors were standing up and speaking out, Dr. Bowden. There were so few of you in that time.
Well, I wish I had spoken out sooner than I did, but it, and it's interesting that I got canceled over just speaking out against mandates. And now, we all agree how horrible mandates are. But I'm hoping, it's still taboo to say that the COVID shot should be pulled off the market, but I think eventually we'll get there, just like we got there with the mandates.
Let's talk about that, because one of the areas that you have just been absolutely stalwart, and I so appreciate your work, has been reminding people of what the mission is for the medical freedom movement, and really critiquing MAHA, the Make America Healthy Again movement, which has kind of been branded as an umbrella over the medical freedom movement, which is made up of doctors like yourself, many people who suffered cancellation, arrest, deplatforming, demonetization in those dark days for standing up, speaking out, and fighting for liberty and the truth about this. Um, as we've seen MAHA come in and refocus the attention of the medical freedom movement away from what happened during COVID and onto air, water, and food, you have been the loudest voice out there from our movement saying, no, we have to remember what happened, fight for justice and a reckoning, and also address the massive elephant in the room, which is the mRNA technology and the shots that are still on the market. Another critical moment in the Tucker Carlson interview where he was dumbfounded that 9 million babies in the United States of America have been injected with the mRNA technology. And that is happening with the quote unquote good guys in political office. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't. It should be quite obvious. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you argue that babies should be getting these shots. What's the counter argument? I mean, you're vaccinating against a cold. The vaccines don't work. They're all risk. They're no benefit. I just don't understand the counter argument. How can you justify giving these shots to babies? It's very easy politically to speak out on that. So we really need the people that we elected into office to speak out, because this is just obvious. It's common sense. These shots should have been pulled off the market a long time ago, and at a minimum, we should not be giving them to children.
Right. What are you hearing from, you are very connected into the medical freedom movement. You're having conversations every day. What are you hearing? What is the pushback? Why is it that we haven't moved anywhere? There hasn't been any movement. If anything, they're in some ways promoting mRNA technologies by expanding mRNA to other shots and other therapies and other vaccines, and just stubbornly refusing to even bring it up. In fact, I mentioned on the show a couple days ago, I don't even know that Bobby Kennedy Jr. has even said the word vaccine. I don't even know if it's past his lips, and in terms of an issue or an item that should be addressed. So, what are you hearing? What is holding this up, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm not privy to any inside conversations. I'll start by saying that. And yeah, I think the most obvious problem is, Trump. Apparently, people who have talked to him have not been able to get very far. And then Callie Means, who seems to have Trump's ear, refuses to go on record to state that the COVID shot should be pulled off the market. So beyond that, that's all I know. I think in his heart, Kennedy is definitely on our side, and I'm just hoping there's strategy involved in this. But I honestly don't know.
Right. How extensive is the influence of the Means twins, I call them, Callie and Casey Means? You have been a critic of the Means. You actually sat down face to face with Callie and challenged him on a lot of these issues on another famous podcast that went viral. That was the Danny Jones podcast. And, it didn't seem to have any impact. They are now firmly entrenched, it seems, within the administration and within HHS. Even I recently read in an official capacity, so a governmental job for, I believe, Callie Means. So, what is the extent of their influence? And how do you think, I mean, we also know that they are simultaneously invested in the biomedical pharmaceutical industry, right? They have companies that will profit from potential influence that they have in DC. Can you speak to that a little bit, because you know a lot about their efforts and their operation than I do, and I'm very curious as to what your thoughts are.
Well, I think we can all agree with their message that we need to raise awareness and regulate when we can, where we can, the ultra processed food market, and make sure our food is clean and healthy and that sort of thing. I think we can all agree on that. And what's problematic, though, is we support their message, they don't support ours, and that's quite obvious. And you know, a lot of people were willing to give them some leeway leading up to President Trump's election, leading up to Kennedy's confirmation. But the time has expired, in my opinion, and now there's really no excuse. And my thing is, if you have a gigantic microphone, you are ethically obligated to speak out on these matters. I mean, Callie on camera. Well, I can't remember if it was on camera, but he said to me that he's not willing to give the shots to his kid. Well, it was on camera, to his kid and to his dad. But they're not safe enough for my kid. They're not safe enough for my dad, but they're safe enough for everyone else. And why is that? So we just need to keep calling out the people publicly, because I don't know how they can't hide forever.
Or can they? I mean, do you get frustrated with all of the work we did to build this movement, all of the blood, sweat, and tears to bring awareness? This movement, we won the argument. We won the argument about the vaccines, about the mandates, about the lockdowns, about 15 or days to slow the spread. I mean, they were wrong on everything. And then poof, it all disappears once this administration comes in. Does that frustrate you?
Oh, yeah. Well, yes. I think it frustrates all of us. I mean,
Yeah.
but it's, people, you can see the response to the interview with Tucker. People, it's still on everybody's minds. People are still wanting redemption, wanting accountability, wanting transparency, because, so I have hope that, they just can't ignore us forever. And the more we get ignored, the louder we get, in my opinion. So I'm grateful to you. I'm grateful to Tucker to keeping this story in the news, so that they can't hide.
So awful. And you're seeing, I mean, you're still practicing right now. So you're seeing the impact of COVID vax injury in your practice on a regular basis, right?
I saw 2 people yesterday, new patients with injuries. Yeah, it's not going away, unfortunately. And
What were
these
the
people,
nature of their injuries?
what did
What
you
was
ask?
it?
What were their injuries?
Yeah, me too.
One man has neuropathy, pretty bad neuropathy, and he had encephalitis, which is inflammation of the lining of the brain. He had that, which has gotten better, but he's left with debilitating neuropathy, which is tingling pain, and usually in the extremities. The other patient was, he used to swim 12 laps a day, and now he can only swim 1. And it started right after the shots. It wasn't that he got sick, and but just general fatigue, poor exercise tolerance. Most people feel better after they exercise, but people with long COVID and with vaccine injuries, they'll often say that exercise makes them feel worse, which is interesting. So yeah, that's what I saw yesterday.
Unbelievable. And this is long term, right? So even if people got the shots 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you're still seeing evidence of that injury in their blood work, right? So it's not dissipating, it's not being flushed out. People are continuing to experience it.
Yeah, what's really alarming is the spike protein antibody levels are so high. And you don't expect that years after the shots. I mean, the titers, the antibody levels are supposed to wane with time, not go away completely, but not stay in the 20,000 and above level that I'm seeing. And in patients that did not get the shots, these levels are far lower, so under 1,000 for the most part. Whereas people who've gotten the shots, I averaged them. There were about 13,000 on average, but a lot of these people they're off the chart, so they're greater than 25,000. They can't even be measured because they've reached the upper limit of normal. It just it doesn't look good. I mean, it needs to be investigated.
This is freaking out a lot of unvaccinated people right now. They're worried about shedding, and they are claiming that they are experiencing some of the symptoms of people who were vaccinated. There have been recent reports out and studies that have shown that there could be some evidence of shedding, meaning someone who got the COVID-19 vaccine recently through transmission, bodily fluid or close proximity to an unvaccinated person could transfer these proteins to the unvaccinated population. What are your thoughts on that? Because there's a lot of controversy on that at times and differing opinions as to whether or not that is a real phenomenon and whether or not we need to be worried as an unvaccinated population about subsequent vaccine programs because of the impact on our health.
I mean, it's a valid concern, but I wouldn't, I don't know what you do about it, and I wouldn't lose sleep over it. I mean, I think the key is we need to figure out, okay, are the people who got the shots, are their bodies continuing to produce spike protein? That seems to be, and if they are continuing to produce spike protein, then I'm sure they're shedding.
Wow.
If they're not, then if the spike protein's there, but it's just laying dormant, I think that's less of a concern in terms of shedding. But we just, the NIH needs to step up and really hit this head on.
So there aren't any studies yet that you're aware of that are looking at what the spike protein is doing in people's bodies after after vaccination? You haven't seen anything?
Very few. I mean, we're seeing a few studies come out. But I really want to know why people's antibody levels are so high years after the shots. And to me, it suggests that they're continuing to make spike protein.
Right. And in that case, they're shedding. So, and if it's designed to replicate, right? Isn't that the case? Like if it's designed to self-replicate, then it's never going to turn on or off. So even if trace amounts are shed upon an unvaccinated person, once it's in their system, the replication process begins, and they could be in as much trouble as a vaccinated person down the line. That's the theory.
You mean somebody that's not vaccinated?
Right.
Well, I think that would be a stretch.
Okay.
I haven't seen sky high antibody. I think if that were the case, where shedding was causing people to start replicating and producing the spike protein in their body, I think I'd start seeing antibody levels that corresponded, and I'm not seeing that.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not saying that these people that you're not being exposed to spike protein, but I don't see it, going to the extent where your body starts making the spike protein.
Okay, yeah, and that was essentially way back in the day when I asked Dr. Peter McCullough about this. It was listen, it's different. Like shedding is a thing. It could happen. It could have some impact, but being shed upon by a vaccinated person is drastically different than being injected 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times directly with the mRNA technology. That is infinitely worse than the other. And you're reinforcing that today based on what you've seen in studies.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's very possible people are having side effects from shedding, but I just think the danger is a lot lower than having actually gotten the shots.
Have you seen any statements, any movement, any initiative to study or look into any of the COVID era protocols, the mRNA technologies, anything from this current health administration under the authority of Bobby Kennedy Jr. at all?
No, I mean, he did put a stop to Novavax research. And yeah, I mean, granted, Jay Bhattacharya just got installed. So he has common sense. And so I'm hoping that he will lead the charge in this department. But we'll see.
It's my understanding that Jay Bhattacharya is still recommending the mRNA shot for elderly populations. Is
Well,
that
I saw he did sign the Hope Accord, which
okay?
calls for the shots to be pulled. So I don't know.
I didn't know that.
He did, yes.
Oh, okay.
I think from what I understand, they left his name off the public record because of what was going on, trying to get him installed. But from what I understand, he's on our side. But
So he signed it, but the signature isn't there. It's a phantom signature from Jay Bhattacharya. Really? That's interesting. Okay.
well,
We're talking to you.
I can't remember the details, but I will go look at that and see. But I'm almost certain that I was told he signed it, but it's just not publicly available.
So he signed it, but it's not there or publicly available. And he's not telling anyone he signed it, but it's there. It's okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Dr. Mary Talley Bowden is with us today on the Shannon Joy Show. We're going to go to break very quickly, bring her back in. I have a lot more questions for Dr. Bowden on the state of things and our health today in the year 2025. And yes, we are going to open up the discussion to all of you in about 15 minutes for your questions and comments. The doctor's in the house, and we're going to open that up to all of you on the live chat, which is really super exciting. But I have a few more questions for Dr. Mary Talley Bowden. Very quickly, before we go to break, today is the very, very, very last day to stock up on your collagen with the 45% off collagen bundle sale from our sponsors over at Native Path. So this is the best offer in the entire nation. It is not being offered to any other audience. It's just the Shannon Joy Show audience. And it's essentially buy two, get one free, or buy one, get two free, but it's 45% off. And as you guys know, Native Path Collagen, my opinion, best in the market. It is what I use every single day. It goes in my coffee. It's part of my morning routine and is actually one of like my longest held little beauty secrets. It's great for your hair, your nails, your skin. As we age, our bodies stop producing collagen, and that leads to the dulling of your hair, your skin, and your nails, and also joint pain and muscle pain and all of the things. So you need to put that collagen back, and you can do it with Native Path Collagen. So go to getnativepathcollagen.com/joy right now. That's getnativepathcollagen.com/joy. And you can access that 45% off discount before the Trump tariff axes raise prices on everything, right? So we know inflation is coming, and this is the perfect time for you to stock up and get that bundle. Again, 45% off. We'll be back in a moment to continue this discussion right here on the Shannon Joy Show.
I have an early Christmas and holiday gift for you. We've all been there. 1 minute, your child is bouncing off the walls, perfectly healthy, and an hour later, this child is very sick. You feel helpless, and it can turn your plans upside down, especially on vacation. After thousands of customer requests, the wellness company has just launched the Kids Emergency Medical Kit. You no longer have to deal with emergency illnesses in a panic. Now you can have 6 critical medications at your fingertips to treat 20 plus illnesses for issues children have, such as strep throat, ear infections, lice, and respiratory illnesses. You can avoid urgent care and hospitals. The Kids Emergency Kit has been hand-selected by the wellness company's medical board and includes chewable amoxicillin, dissolvable ivermectin, and an optional EpiPen and more. This also includes a detailed guidebook guiding you step by step in emergencies. Ordering this kit is simple. Only parents can order for their children. Fill out an intake form and you will get a verification call for consent. Then it's delivered to your door. Don't wait till you're in the middle of a crisis and avoid late night urgent care runs. Order your kid's emergency kit today and remove panic from your life. And if one or two of the prescriptions run out, there's a replenishment option to restock only what you need. Go to dailyclouthealth.com and grab your kid's emergency kit right now. Use code DailyClout to save up to $40 at checkout. These kits are only available in the USA. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. I also want to talk about our amazing sponsors over at the Satellite Phone Store. They've been with us now for well over 6 months. You've met Tina Blanco on the Shannon Joy Show. She's come in multiple times. Dr. Bashima Williams was with us just a couple weeks ago talking about EMF and the impact on human health. In fact, we've had a horrible situation with my father-in-law who has had just absolutely horrible tinnitus. It's been so bad for poor Rich that my mom and Rich have had to move out of the city into the country for a time as he's seeking treatment. And it's just been absolutely debilitating for him. It's been pretty awful. And one of the only things that has helped him ease some of the pain and the intensity of the tinnitus has been the line of Faraday products from the Satellite Phone Store. They have an amazing line of Faraday hats, Faraday blankets. We just loaded him up with everyone you can imagine. And it really has been a source of some of the only comfort that he's had over the past month. Recently, they've had a couple breakthroughs and he's starting to feel a little bit better. But their product line is absolutely amazing. And as you know, there are so many health impacts from EMF. That's electromagnetic frequency. It comes from everything, 5G towers, all of your devices in the schools, fluorescent lighting. In fact, my daughter Mimi, like the second she walks in to the public school, her public school here in New York, she immediately gets headaches and migraines. Like it is like clockwork for her. So this is something, I use the Faraday to give my body a break from all of the EMF. And it's been really great for myself, my family, and really great for Rich. So if you guys are concerned about EMF, please go to sat123.com/joy. Sat123.com/joy. That is my portal to all things Satellite Phone Store. So the satellite phones, the plans, the generators, all of the emergency equipment that you could ever need, all of the prepping equipment that you can need, and their entire line of Faraday bags, beanies, blankets. It is the best technology, and everything is 10% off when you use the Joy10 promo code. So Joy10 is the promo code. And again, it always works over at sat123.com. Let's bring Dr. Mary Talley Bowden back into the Joy virtual studio. Thank you so much for being here today from the great state of Texas. And we're really glad to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And we're going to open up the live chat. People have tons of questions for you. And thank you so much, Mrs. Lovely, your poor father-in-law. It's been awful. I'll tell you guys the whole story. When he gets better, when we figure out how to treat him, it's been terrible. He had a great appointment with a chiropractor that really helped him recently. But, it's just been crazy. But he knows, Dr. Bowden, that when the second he drives into, something clicked a couple months ago and he had minor tinnitus. And then I don't know what it was, but it just ramped up to a point where it was just debilitating for him. And, it coincided with the move. They have this massive 5G tower, like right outside of their apartment. And, there are some studies on that, but it's still kind of a new science. But, I trust him when he says, the second he gets within proximity, it's awful. It's just awful.
Well, you can have, if the bone around your inner ear is very thin or missing, then you're going to be more sensitive to pressure changes, even sometimes people talking, like the voice can trigger things, because there is a hard shell around the organ, the inner ear. But if you get, it's called a dehiscence, where it's very thin or missing, and you can become more sensitive to things in the environment. It could trigger ringing or sometimes dizziness or sometimes pain.
Tinnitus is one of those crazy it's a crazy diagnosis. My dad was diagnosed with tinnitus a few years ago, and he said it was basically a miserable year. I mean, he finally got used to it, but uh, there are very few cures to it. Like, I haven't seen a lot of progress. Again, Rich has had a lot of relief from the Faraday products, but it's still really bad. Do you see anything? I mean, I feel like it's ramped up recently. It was something I never really heard about a decade ago, but now I feel like I hear about it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult thing to help people with. But you do have to rule out other issues going on, and if there are other issues going on that can potentially be fixed, then that's important to know. And one easy thing, so if your eustachian tubes are clogged up, and your eustachian tubes run from your middle ear to the back of your nose, and they equalize the pressure in your middle ear. So if you're going on an airplane and you're coming down from high altitude to low altitude, you may notice pressure in your ears, and you relieve that by popping your ears. You open up your eustachian tubes.
Right.
And so there are people that either are born with bad eustachian tubes, or if you get a cold and your eustachian tubes are swollen, or allergies can cause them to swell, or rarely, a tumor or a cyst or a polyp in your nose can cause your eustachian tubes to get blocked. But that creates increased pressure in your middle ear, which then can transmit to your inner ear, where your inner ear is right next to your middle ear. And so, if you can alleviate the pressure in your middle ear, sometimes you can help the ringing, because of the ringing's being caused by just a lot of pressure in that area.
Interesting. MAB 2022 says, not a new science. Robert O. Becker's entire research showed the dangers of EMF. What are your thoughts on EMF? Is that something you've even looked into?
I really haven't looked into it a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
in terms of the ear symptoms, though, the best explanation I can think of is that some people might be more prone to it just
Yeah.
because they don't have that protection, that shell.
Right, absolutely, and I do think that each body is different, and each body reacts differently, and there's just so many things that we layer onto our bodies in the 21st century. I mean, starting with birth, with all all of the vaccines, and then the childhood vaccine schedule, and then everything in the air and the water and the toxins in the food, and it's hard to grapple with, Dr. Bowden, to kind of take it all in and, okay, well, what are the culprits here? And that's kind of where I am after 3 years, 5 years of having, I mean, dozens upon dozens of doctors and scientists and researchers on the show. I mean, we know that the shots have impact, absolutely, but I think a lot of people are just kind of like, what is going on here with our health?
Well, our life expectancy is better than, I mean, it's getting better. So we have to stay positive. I
There
mean,
we go. There we go.
um, but yeah, we really do. I think step one, examine the vaccine schedule, because it's gotten completely out of control. And autism skyrocketing. I mean, the most logical explanation is it's from all these vaccines that kids are given at such a young age when they're vulnerable. Um, and then in terms of, I'm sure our food has a lot to do with it as well. But I love what Tucker said on the interview. He's like, every time I eat a piece of pizza, I know I'm eating bad food. It's common sense.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know, does America want the government to take away our temptations, or or do we self-govern and suffer the consequences for indulging in the temptations that we know are bad for us?
Well, and of course, and that was a cute part of the Tucker interview. But of course, I mean, and this has been established on my show multiple times by so many different doctors because it's a question I always ask. Ingestion versus injection, right? It is your body is built to deal with some low level of toxicity, toxins from the air and water and food. Like you have a stomach and you have a liver, and I don't know what else it is in your body that helps you deal with all that stuff. You're the doctor, not me. And yes, I see on the live chat, yes, Dr. Mary Bowden is an ENT, so she's an expert in the ear, nose, throat part of it. But the direct injection of toxins via a needle into our bloodstream, capillaries, distributed throughout our bodies is quite different and much more devastating. Correct, Dr. Bowden?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
So there's a huge effort to remove mRNA from the food, and I agree, but it is less worrisome. The level of danger is not as high because our stomach is very acidic. It breaks down most of what can harm us. And so you're completely right. If it's injected, it's a basic tenet of medicine. Like if I have somebody with a bad infection, I am more likely to give them an antibiotic injection than a pill if I want, if they're severe, because the turnaround, the improvement will be much better if they get a shot versus taking an oral antibiotic.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. We got to get to the questions on the live chat, Mary, because they're just popping. Lots and lots of questions. Let's start first with, are you ready? Are you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready, but I can't promise you I'm going to answer, but we'll see.
Well, listen, the discussion is always important, and I'm sure that you're going to be able to answer a lot of these questions. And let's just remind everyone that this is not medical advice. You should consult your own doctor in some of these things, but some of them are broad. Mark the Regan, and I did see these questions. There are a lot about multiple versions of batches that were deployed of the COVID shot in the early days, and that particularly leading to different outcomes, hot batches that were particularly toxic. There's a lot of information on that. How Bad Is My Batch is a very good resource for that. But what are your thoughts on that? Is that a phenomenon that you've looked into and that you think is in play?
Well, one thing that I have looked into is the fact that a lot of these shots were being given outside at stadiums. People were driving through in their cars. And I remember when they first came out, I looked at, okay, what do you have to do in your clinic to be able to provide these shots? I would have had to buy a very expensive and special freezer and put that in my clinic to enable to administer the shots. So I have wondered, okay, people who are just driving through in their car, especially in Texas where it's super hot,
Right.
and they get these injections, what are they getting? And I actually asked Robert Malone about this, and he thought it actually would be worse if they came to room temperature. I thought maybe it would make them weaker. He thought it might be worse.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know, but I think that's an important aspect in terms of maybe that may explain. And then of course, when they're rolled out this fast into so many people, how do you control for quality in the production? I mean, I think that's a huge concern. That there I'm certain there must have been variations in quality, what kind of products went out there.
I would love to get Sasha Latapova on the program because I believe that she, in her research, has definitively shown that there were different versions of the vaccine sent out purposefully because it was under an emergency use authorization. It was by definition experimentation, right? So it was an experimental vaccine, and part of that protocol is to roll out placebos, different versions, and then assess how people reacted to them. And I think that was featured in her interview with Bobby Kennedy Jr. years back, but I can't remember exactly what she found.
But I guess I'm wondering, how are they tracking? I mean, they don't seem interested in tracking anybody's outcomes. So I guess what would be their motivation in doing that?
Right.
Because they're completely, I
Right.
don't know.
It's interesting. It would be, wouldn't it be amazing if we had someone in HHS or NIH or CDC or FDA that would look into this stuff? Like, wouldn't that be so cool if
Yeah.
we had someone that would research, open up the books, let us know like what there's still so many questions about all of this. This is why we have to continue to hammer this administration and our political leaders, people who are in positions of power, to get these answers. All right, I have another question for you. Okay, we got a lot here. Oh wow. Okay, let's do this one real quick. On a scale of 1 to 10, this is from Jerry Alatalo. Thank you, Jerry. On a scale of 1 to 10, where does Dr. Bowden place the importance of arresting and prosecuting COVID medical fraudsters and mRNA bioweapons mass murderers in the near future? Thoughts?
Well, number one on my list is get the shots off the market, because they're still being given to innocent babies who have no threat of dying from COVID anytime soon. Number two, I think, yeah, accountability. I don't know what form that takes, but definitely accountability. We cannot restore the trust until some sort of action is taken. I guess at first we need them to acknowledge something actually happened, and then they need to do something about it. So yes, it's high on my list.
Yeah. And it's interesting that in this process, we aren't even in the admission stage yet.
Right, right.
3 months into this administration, and it's like it never happened, which is just mind-boggling to me. All right, but yes, I agree with you. And Jerry, high priority, but it's like pulling teeth, man, to get these people to acknowledge this. Mow My Lawn is with us on the live chat. How can we tell if the spike proteins are running around? I don't even know what that question. Oh, okay. We have an explainer. How do we assess the level of spike protein remaining in our system? Okay, people who are worried, who have gotten one or more vaccines or think they might be shed upon, how do they assess the level of spike protein in their system?
Well, we need a test. We don't have that test. There are some tests that can be done privately, but not available to the public.
Huh.
We need a spike protein test. We have a spike protein antibody test, but that is a little bit muddy. I mean, it reflects what we think is spike protein levels in the body, but we don't know for sure. So yeah, if I were the NIH, that would be step one, is find a spike protein test that people can get. And if you want to check your antibody levels, LabCorp has a test, and you don't need a physician's order to get it.
Oh, wow. So LabCorp has a test for the antibody levels of spike protein. Is that like a D-dimer? I heard a D-dimer test. Is that the same thing, or?
No, that checks for blood clots.
Okay. Okay. All right. So LabCorp, if you guys want to go and check out your levels. Zen Woman is with us on the live chat with a question. Dr. Bowden, actions everyone to get this harmful shot off the market. Additionally, what about the aggressive childhood vaccine schedule? Let's start with the first one. Let's start with the second one, actually. Childhood vaccine schedule is now coming into focus. More and more people are aware of this schedule now that we have lost all of our trust in our institutions regarding the COVID shot. And what are your thoughts on the childhood schedule?
Well, like I said in that interview, I made a lot of assumptions. I assumed they were tested the way other products were tested. They're not. They're not subjected to placebo-controlled trials. They're not tested where, you know, a child gets 6 shots in one day. Let's see what happens. So, you know, parents of young children are in a very difficult position right now, and I do not envy them. But if you can hold off till we get some more data, that's typically what I would recommend. We just need transparency. We need good data. And, you know, I have not seen the fallout from other vaccines like I have from the COVID shot. So I'll say that. I don't, 7% of my new patients who came in to see me in the 2 years following the shots were coming to see me for injuries. And I have not seen that with other shots. So I think, the level of danger is different. But I just think that we need to subject these products to the same scientific scrutiny that other products are subjected to.
Right. I think that some people would say that the childhood vaccine has been embedded in the fabric of our culture for so long that there are many common ailments that people associate, just chronic diseases, allergies, asthma, acne, autoimmune disorders, all sorts of things that we're just, that we're just like, oh, well, this is just what happens to children all the time. And people would say that childhood schedule impacts that. I mean, if you're penetrating a baby's skin with the level of, I mean, the ingredients alone, the toxicity of the metals in some of these vaccines, it's hard to believe that that this is not impacting health. And it might not be debilitating myocarditis or pericarditis or some of the things that we're seeing with the mRNA shot, but a lot of people are saying, yeah, clearly we had to study it, right? At least, and it's not being studied at all.
Right, right. So, I mean, I have hope that Kennedy will lead that effort. I haven't given up on that. I think he will. It did sound like the CDC, and I don't know, it was kind of unclear if it was just a rumor or if it was actually true. But it sounds like the CDC is starting to look into vaccines.
Okay, kind of like Jay Bhattacharya's signature on the like a secret study that
Right.
no one knows about, clandestine. You're so much more optimistic than I am, but that's good. We need optimism in this area. Um, what else was I gonna say? I had something else I was gonna say. I can't remember. So let's hold on here. Then the second question was, okay, hold on. What do you think everyone should do to bring awareness to this and to get the shots off the market too? Like, what can people do? What do you recommend people do?
Hound your representatives. And you can do that very easily these days. You can do it on social media, you can email them, you can call them. But just keep the pressure on them, as they work for us. I think they forget that, but they work for us, and it's amazing. There were two bills that came forth recently that were very important, and they were started by citizens. They weren't doctors, they weren't lawyers, they didn't have connections. And one of them was in Iowa, and you and I both talked to him, Dan.
Yep.
And that was to get the mRNA shots pulled off the market. And that bill, became a bill because of his efforts, just a
Right.
regular citizen. And then the same thing in Arkansas, a man named Brock Thompson lobbied to get ivermectin over the counter, and he was successful. And that was, regular citizen. And now ivermectin's over the counter. So don't think that you're powerless. If you have time on your hands, you can make a huge impact.
Dr. Bowden, you have been following a lot of the local bottom-up state-led efforts, legislators across the country, various bills. This is one area where your organization and your impact has been incredibly, incredibly important. Dr. Bowden has been really leading this effort in a lot of ways, testifying in hearings across the country with people like Dr. Peter McCullough and Ed Dowd and a whole host of medical freedom advocates. What is your assessment? Can you just fill us in on some of the victories and some of the drawbacks? We had a recent bill that was passed, a medical freedom bill, I believe in Idaho, and it might have been in Idaho, that was vetoed by a Republican governor. But there are different bills in various forms. Can you give us an overview of the success rate, how we're doing, and what we can do to help these efforts and really smash these governors if they're going to get out their veto pen, really make them feel the pain if they're going to try to thwart our efforts. But what is your assessment on the state-led efforts?
Yeah, that was Idaho. It was Governor Brad Little. He vetoed a medical freedom bill in Idaho.
Unbelievable.
But they resurrected it. They created a new bill and with some amendments. I'm not sure. I have to go look and see what the amendments are, but they haven't given up. But interestingly enough, Idaho is on the verge of making ivermectin over the counter, which make them the third state in the country. Tennessee was first, then Arkansas, and now Idaho, assuming Governor Little signs the bill, because it did pass yesterday. And then we have, I think it's 13 states with bills on being considered to make ivermectin over the counter. So that's amazing. That's huge. Honestly, I think the FDA should just make the product over the counter. It's very safe. It would obviate the need for all these states to make all this effort to pass laws. But I'm not sure that will happen. And then in terms of the mRNA shots, there are 6 states with bills to ban mRNA shots. And then there's 1 state, Minnesota, is filing a bill on Monday to ban the COVID shots. So it's not as popular as the ivermectin bill, unfortunately. It's politically much more difficult. It shouldn't be, but here we are.
There we are. We're going to go to break really quickly before we finish out the show with Dr. Mary Talley Bowden. Please follow her on Twitter and support all of her efforts. As we go to break, speaking of ivermectin, for those of you in states that have not made ivermectin over the counter, which is most of the states in the United States of America, and you need your ivermectin, you want your ivermectin, there is a way for you to get it, and all other medications, any other medications that you might need to not only access that easily, affordably, and quickly, but also to stock up for any situation. People are worried about inflation. People are worried about economic turmoil. People are worried about natural disaster or government-created disasters. You do not want to be without the medications that you need, and also ivermectin. And that's why we are so thankful for our sponsors over at All Family Pharmacy. Family-owned business. They have a brick and mortar store right in Boca Raton, Florida. You've met the owner, Michael, here on the Shannon Joy Show. An amazing company, amazing service. And I cannot believe how easy it was for me to get my ivermectin. I stocked up for our family. It took about 7 minutes. And I mean, it was ridiculously easy, easier than I thought it was. And we had our ivermectin within a couple days, shipped right to our door. Even if you don't have a doctor's prescription, they have doctors who can work with you to fill those prescriptions. So go to allfamilypharmacy.com/joy. That is allfamilypharmacy.com/joy. Joy10 is the promo code. Everything is 10% off when you use that promo code Joy10. So if you want the link, it's right in the show notes here in the Shannon Joy Show. We'll be back in a moment to finish out with Dr. Mary Talley Bowden. All right, everyone. That was the P600 sizzle set. We have one in our kitchen at the Joy household, and just love the pans. They're beautiful. I cannot believe I have not been cooking on ceramic like my entire life. It's very true. Nothing sticks to these pans. And I don't know if you knew this, but recently there was a study from the University of New Mexico that shows that every time you use a traditional scratched nonstick pan, it releases 9,000 toxic particles into your food. So all of the PFA, the PFOA, it's really bad. And you can solve that problem by cooking with ceramic. These particles, as I mentioned, can contain chemicals like PTFE, PFOA. Both are endocrine disruptors and can be linked to cancer, autoimmune diseases, heart disease, and even brain damage. And yeah, we're cooking that up for our kids every single day. So stop doing that. Get the P600 ceramic cookware from Chef's Foundry. 55% off right now if you go to chefsfoundry.com/joy. That is chefsfoundry.com/joy for that exclusive Joy audience, 55% discount. And you guys have seen my pan. I won't I won't make you suffer through, my old pans with the chipping, non-stick coming off and all the scratches. It's really bad. I can't believe that I'd been cooking with them for so long. So get your pans, chefsfoundry.com/joy. Dr. Mary Talley Bowden is back with us for the final segment here in the Shannon Joy Show. Thank you, Jesus. It is Friday. Cannot wait for the weekend. And it's been a really great week for Dr. Bowden. You've been right about so much, and you've been vindicated in so many ways, culminating with a phenomenal interview with Tucker Carlson. So congratulations to you. Amazing.
Thank you. I still have the hearing to decide what kind of punishment I'm going to get in front of the medical board, and everybody can join in on that. It's a Zoom call because they're still in pandemic mode. They don't do these things in person. They have to do them
You have to let me know when that happens because I will be there. I will be there.
It's a week. It's the last week in April, first week of May. It's 5 days, apparently.
Love it.
Take 5 days to determine how much they want to punish me.
The Notorious MTB, the baddest girl in Texas, Dr. Bowden. You are public enemy number one. Like, you'd think they'd have other things to do with their time. How much money did they spend? What is it? Hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point in legal fees and in this battle?
Yeah, it was $260,000. And my lawyers went pro bono last summer. So it would have been a lot worse than that.
Unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable. That's government for you. Let's go back to the questions. We have a few more for you. Dr. Bowden, here's a great one. From Buskman, what is a detox program that you would recommend for those who got the shots?
I don't know. We don't know. We need more research. I mean, I will say the people that come to see me who are having symptoms, I mean, I don't know that you need to start taking stuff just because you got the shots, but people that are having symptoms, I usually start them on ivermectin, and I usually get a good response. Ivermectin has 21 mechanisms of action and has a lot of anti-inflammatory actions. It binds the spike protein, and it's safe. It's unusual to have side effects. So that's what I usually start people with. There's a lot of other stuff you can try. Independent Medical Alliance has protocols on there. They used to be FLCCC.
Yep.
In terms of supplements, but it's overwhelming all the things you can try. So that's why we call for research into this area is desperately needed.
Right. Absolutely. And there haven't we seen other really great, I mean, as an anti-parasitic and an anti-inflammatory, people are using my ivermectin for a lot of other ailments as well. And you've been kind of at the fore of a lot of this research and what this, some people call miracle drug, can do. Pierre Corey was with us at our summit for Truth and Wellness. He wrote the book, The War on Ivermectin. But what else are you finding about ivermectin in terms of other health ailments and that people are finding?
Well, I just hear stories. I don't, but people have told me their allergies have gotten better. Acne has gotten better. Autoimmune disease has gotten better. It's interesting. It shares a similar mechanism of action as lithium, but it doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier. So there may be some psychological improvements too. People are certainly using it for cancer. I have a lot of people, coming to me asking me about that. And wow. I have not seen miracles yet with it. I've seen some failures. Mm-hmm. I've seen a couple people where it seems to have held things off, kept it from growing more than anything. But certainly that a lot of people are using ivermectin, and a lot of oncologists, they're hiding it from their oncologists because oncologists are not open-minded about it. And so, and it will be interesting because, a lot of these people, they're at MD Anderson, they're enrolled in clinical trials. Their goal is to stay alive. So they're throwing the kitchen sink at it, and then they're not telling their oncologists what they're taking. So will it mess up these trials? Like, will these trials be altered and the the investigators have no idea that the patients are taking ivermectin. So that's a concern.
As an anti-parasitic, what can parasites, I mean, this is something I didn't even know. I've just recently been looking into parasites, right? It's not anything has ever been on my radar. I've never in my life had a doctor say, hey, you might have a parasite. If I've gone in to ask about, a certain health problem. And then when I look it up, if you just do a cursory Google search on, parasites and impact of parasites in the human body, all the things, asthma, allergies, colds, migraines, like all of these things that could be impacted by actually having parasites. Is there anything that you've looked into recently, or what are your thoughts on that? Because that's something I've only recently heard about.
Yeah, I mean, I think parasites. I think people can take it too far. I think if you do have a parasite, you can diagnose it. You can do stool samples, or you take a dose of ivermectin. It should rid. It's not a complicated thing to treat for the most
Right.
part.
Right.
I mean, there are exceptions. There are some weird parasites and that cause all sorts of problems. But for the typical person, if you took a dose of ivermectin, that would solve the problem. We probably do have more parasites in our bodies than we realize. But a lot of times that will show up on blood work. Certain, there's a type of blood cell called eosinophil, and those tend to go up high when you have parasites. So that's like and most people that's tested for. So typically would get picked, or you may have some symptoms that like a tapeworm is a parasite, and that causes you to lose a lot of weight for no apparent reason.
Okay.
Things like that. But I do see people go too far with the parasites and attribute it to everything, and
Right.
so it should be investigated. If you suspect you have it, it's not that hard to diagnose.
Don't we just go too far with everything, Dr. Bowden? Isn't that just what we do as Americans in this country? I mean, I do imagine though, like if you're going your whole life, like I am 48 years old, right? Almost 50. And I've never even thought about parasites. I've never done a parasite cleanse. I've never, engaged in that. Like there could be a lot of things going on. If I've never done the blood work for it to see if I had parasites, but there could be things going on, and you might want to do.
You are the picture of health, Shannon. You're not being ravaged by parasites. I can tell you by just looking at you. You're fine.
Okay. I am. What is your here? Like, what is your say? What do you recommend for good general health? What are you think? Like, because we do. There's so much. There's so much out there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, common sense. Manage your weight. That's first and foremost, because if you are overweight, you're higher risk for everything else, for infection, heart disease, cancer. So step one, manage your weight. Get enough sleep, go outside, exercise, have hobbies, socialize, get off the computer.
Yes. Seriously. Denis Rancourt was on my show. I have to have him on again. He's very controversial. He challenges even the existence of potentially viruses. I won't make you go there. I won't do it because it is controversial and everybody debates that. But he did say something very interesting to me about the level of stress and how stress can manifest if it's chronic. If you are in a constant state of fear, stress, anxiety, isolation, that can manifest in so many of the health problems that we see today. And just managing stress is a huge, huge impact on people's health. What are your thoughts on that?
Definitely. I mean, I think a lot. Well, I know personally, I only get sick when I'm stressed and I don't sleep well. Like when stress impacts my sleep, I get sick. So yeah, definitely. I mean, and if you don't like exercising, one thing I do, because I hate running. I don't like to, I have to, if I'm going to exercise, it has to have some sort of purpose involved.
Yeah, I don't run unless something's chasing me. That's the only way I run. You will never see this girl run ever.
And yeah, I'm not a big fan of the treadmill and all that either.
No.
But I'll clean that, and that's sort of my, if I, I'd rather be doing something fun, like I play pickleball or I
Yeah.
ski, but I have to have some sort of purpose. And so cleaning is how I get my exercise as well. And
Yeah.
if you can't sleep, the best thing you can do. So this weekend, if you're stuck in an insomnia rut, then clean out your garage this weekend or clean out your attic, and you will sleep like a baby.
So true. Great advice. Dr. Mary Talley Bowden, we have to wrap up. Everyone, Mark the Regan. It's nice to see Dr. Bowden smile. Everybody loves to see you. You're so helpful, and this was really great. We're going to have to do it again. Have a wonderful weekend. How can people support you?
Well, just follow me on X. Make my voice louder. That's
go.
what we need.
So comment, retweet, follow on X, and that's how we're going to get it out there. Thank you so much, Dr. Bowden. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Shannon.
All right. And thank you guys for being with us this week on the Shannon Joy Show. Thanks to Annie for producing the show. Thank you to all of you who help to, support our efforts here. So appreciate you on the live chat. Have a wonderful weekend. Please remember our sponsors, of course, Chef's Foundry, All Family Pharmacy, Colonial Metals Group, Native Path Collagen, PCM and Associates, and of course, our amazing friends over at the Satellite Phone Store. All of the links are in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show. And if you're in the market for any of their products or services, help us out and patronize these sponsors. This is how we keep the Shannon Joy Show alive, running, and growing. So you guys have a wonderful weekend. We'll be back on Monday to do it all again right here on the Shannon Joy Show.